Every day, millions of digital interactions flood the internet. Grabbing a user's attention for even a fraction of a second is now the single most expensive line item for any e-commerce brand. The cost of raw traffic is rising relentlessly. A handful of dominant digital platforms have captured the vast majority of this daily traffic. They control the flow of users, creating a massive bottleneck for independent brands trying to reach their target audience. Because these platforms dictate the pricing, relying purely on brute force paid advertising to push products in front of users is no longer mathematically viable for most businesses. The margins simply erode. Isolated marketing tactics cannot outpace these rising costs. Brands are forced to stop looking for quick hacks and start rethinking the entire architecture of how they acquire and keep customers. This structural problem forces every brand into a difficult choice. Do you rent space on a massive third-party aggregator, or do you build your own independent domain? This matrix evaluates the trade-off between traffic on the vertical axis and control on the horizontal axis. The platform model grants immense daily traffic, but you surrender customer data. Official sites offer absolute ownership, but launch with zero traffic, forcing a fight for every visitor. Many brands try to run both models simultaneously to balance out the weaknesses. But without a unified system, these two channels end up cannibalizing each other rather than compounding. To survive this trilemma of rising costs, low conversion, and platform monopolies, a brand has to construct an integration strategy map, a precise system that connects isolated tactics into a single cohesive growth engine. Building this integration strategy map starts by charting a linear progression of human behavior. You cannot optimize what you do not accurately map. This diagram illustrates the standard customer journey. Every user must pass through 4 distinct stages: exposure to the brand, developing interest, making the conversion into a buyer, and finally, loyalty that leads to repurchase. But knowing these stages is only half the equation. To build a functioning engine, we have to anchor abstract consumer psychology to strict mathematical metrics. At the top of the funnel, the exposure and interest phases, the health of the system is quantified purely by raw volume. We track this using the total visitor count. As users move into the buying phase, volume isn't enough. We need a metric of efficiency to track exactly how many of those visitors actually purchase. For this, we measure the CVR, or conversion rate. CVR is the percentage of total visitors who successfully complete a desired action, like making a purchase. And the ultimate health metric for the entire system evaluates the total revenue generated against the cost of acquiring that traffic. We define this using ROAS, or return on ad spend. ROAS is a metric calculated by dividing total revenue by total advertising costs. By attaching these specific numerical KPIs to each behavioral stage, we stop guessing. Marketing philosophy becomes a predictable, engineered machine. This diagram shows how we apply force to the pipeline using the POES framework, 4 strategic levers to push users through the stages. POES stands for paid advertising, owned media, earned media, and shared social channels. Consider how a giant like Shopee operates during promotional events like Double 11. They aggressively pull the paid and owned levers to maximize numbers. Their mechanics are highly specific. They subsidize traffic by bombarding the internet with paid ads to maximize exposure. Then, they force conversion on their own platform, using strict time limits and aggressive discount codes. Brands facing high ad costs must activate earned and shared levers to pull users in organically. This relies on the mechanics of social diffusion. Instead of paying for every single view, you deploy content that triggers users to share it with their own networks, generating free, highly scalable exposure. The supermarket chain PX Mart utilizes humor and emotional marketing around major holidays to engineer content specifically designed to trigger rapid sharing across social feeds. Mastering all 4 of these POES channels is essential. It is the only structural defense against a fatal over-reliance on increasingly expensive paid advertising. With multiple channels operating at once, the messaging can quickly become fragmented. This requires integrated marketing communications, or IMC. IMC is unifying brand messaging across different media channels so they speak with one consistent voice. The ultimate stress test for IMC is successfully bridging the digital and physical worlds, what the industry calls the online to offline, or O2O strategy. O2O is a business model that draws potential customers from online channels to make purchases in physical stores. This blueprint illustrates 7-Eleven's architecture. It serves as a near-perfect manifestation of O2O integration in retail. They use their mobile application to capture user data and push targeted promotions. This digital app routing directly drives physical foot traffic into storefronts, resulting in immediate consumption. This seamless loop doesn't happen by accident. It is entirely reliant on the centralized integration of their member data, ensuring the app knows exactly what the customer buys at the physical register. True omni-channel strategy erases the boundary between digital engagement and physical revenue generation, unifying both into a single operation. We now have a highly complex pipeline routing traffic, tracking conversions, and bridging physical stores. Without a governing operating system to regulate it, the structure will collapse under its own weight. This is the SOSAC feedback loop. It stands for situation, objectives, strategy, tactics, action, and control. The loop begins with situation analysis. Before buying ads or building sites, strategy must originate from hard data on market trends, competitors, and consumer insights. Guided by those initial strategies, the daily execution of our POES channels happens in the center of the framework. But the system only survives because of the final critical phase, control. Control requires rigorous, continuous data monitoring. When a specific channel shows a drop in conversion rate, you use A/B testing, deploying 2 variations of a tactic to see which performs better, to locate and patch the leak in the pipeline. The SOS TAC loop acts as the nervous system. It takes a rigid marketing plan and turns it into a living, self-correcting business operation. Think back to the matrix we established at the beginning, that harsh choice between the immense traffic of a third-party platform and the absolute control of an independent official site. Deploying this complete integration strategy map coordinates both channels, making that initial binary trade-off obsolete. Long-term e-commerce survival is purely a function of optimizing this total architecture to drive acquisition, secure conversion, and maximize retention. In the modern digital landscape, success flows from architecting the smartest, most adaptable system.